All right, welcome back. Here we are yet again, and today we're gonna educate ourselves together, you and me. We're gonna educate ourselves in the Israeli Palestine conflict. And what is this about? You could only know something if you look at both sides to know what the hell is going on. But let's start right here at home, America, before we go into other countries. Let's start looking at how things over there are affecting us over here. So this is the channel. We about to check this out and see what's what. All right.
College protesters have finally gone home for the summer.
Nice.
And they've left a lasting mark on history. Their legacy? A destructive trend in social justice activism. It goes far beyond college campuses. It's self-centered, it's manipulative, and it's terrible for America. I call them luxury beliefs.
Facts. Luxury beliefs, bro.
I'm the rare PhD who grew up carrying everything I owned in a trash bag starting when I was 3. I lived in 10 foster homes before I joined the Air Force. Then I went to Yale on the GI Bill and on to Cambridge. Along the way, I came up with the term luxury beliefs. They're ideas held by privileged people that make them look good, but actually harm the marginalized.
I know.
It's like virtue signaling, with consequences.
Yep.
Defund the police.
Why should we defund the police?
Take defund the police. Classic luxury belief. That cause was most supported by the wealthiest Americans. It was least supported
White
by
people.
poor Americans, who are at least twice as likely to be victims of violent crime compared to the middle class. Where I grew up, we were lucky there were police to call.
Facts, bro. Like, this is exactly, like, these people don't suffer from living in the ghetto, bro. They don't know how it is. They don't know, like, we need the police to show up when we need them to show up. And they want to defund the police because they live out in these out of touch. They're not poor. They live in probably gated communities. Their communities are nice and chill. So they're like, in their view, they're like, why do we even need the police? The police are just out there oppressing minorities. No. You don't know anything, bro. Like, this is exactly a luxury belief.
Next up, decriminalizing drugs. That's another luxury belief.
All drugs should be decriminalized.
I want to decriminalize drug possession for personal use, and here's why.
Should crystal meth be legal? The answer is yes.
That movement has been most supported by well-educated Americans, less so by those without a college degree, who are more likely to experience the downsides of the drug trade. My mom once tied me to a chair with a belt while she got high. And it's not just me. Since 2000, the number of foster kids has doubled due to parental drug use. Luxury beliefs are all over the place.
All right, let's touch on that. I'm a Puerto Rican, and Puerto Rico suffers till this day in a big heroin epidemic. And my dad, since I was young, he used to use heroin injected in his body, bro. Yes, this is going to be a strong video. And he got AIDS when I was really young, and my mom was always afraid to get AIDS. And I was like, I didn't know what was going on, but later in life I learned it was just bad. But my wife, as a Puerto Rican too, she lost both her parents to AIDS. Both her parents to heroin abuse. And they did that to her, bro. They used to leave her in the crib while they get high. And that's not life. This is and the crazy thing, I'm starting to think, just with this, few minutes, I'm starting to think that these privileged white people just pretend that they're trying to help, but they really have an agenda to kill all the minorities. But that's just me, how I see it, because it's devious behind it. Like, though they're pushing an agenda that only affects minorities with the disguise and the gaze of them, oh, we're actually trying to help you. But in reality, it seems like they're trying to get rid of us and pretending to help us.
Get rid of the SAT?
4 hours of my life down the drain.
SAT scores help underprivileged kids get into college. Reject marriage?
I find marriage completely pointless.
For poor kids, one of the strongest predictors of
I
success
just
is
said I
having
didn't
married
have my
parents.
dad, bro.
As a kid, I would have done anything to have had two stable parents.
Especially my wife.
There are 3 golden rules of luxury beliefs.
Play the
You
victim.
notice campus protesters acting like refugees? Luxury beliefs help many elites feel like they deserve what they have. After all, today's progressive activists are twice as likely than average to make over $100,000 a year.
$100,000 a year, bro. They want to go out there and pretend, and they make 100. You see how they're privileged, bro. I'm lucky if I made it. If I make it past 30K a year, and it's always white people. That's why I don't want to be racist against white people, bro. But they're just so bad. They're just so bad. They don't know how to stop themselves with racism and making the world the worst place no matter where they at.
Why are you doing this to me? You stop!
By the looks of it, you would think these protesters were facing serious consequences.
This morning, police say at least 45 pro-Palestinian protesters were arrested at Yale University. Police say they were later released.
But the stakes are pretty low when you're released with no major penalties.
They have no idea.
How am I gonna get through?
The part that bothers me the most, when the privileged claim to fight for the underdog, but actually hurt them instead. Remember when an heir and his fellow vigilantes faced off with a janitor at
I
Columbia?
do remember.
That was luxury beliefs in action. Privileged men wrestling a blue-collar worker, all in the name of the marginalized.
It's just scary just thinking that you're locked in with a bunch of crazies.
That could be me.
Not all protesters are super privileged.
I repeatedly said that my family has been killed, and that is why I am here. And as I was saying that through the megaphone, police officers snatched the megaphone out from my hand and threw it behind them.
And it's great that people with privilege care about injustice, but too many of these people don't know what they're protesting.
Among these white, woke, pampered children from
White, woke, pampered children. He couldn't have said it better, bro.
It's great that people with privilege care about injustice, but too
They
many
don't
of these
care.
people don't know what they're protesting.
among these white, woke, pampered children from wealthy families, there's a complete ignorance about the complexities of this issue.
Luxury belief activists turn causes into props that transfer attention to where students really want it, on themselves.
Do you want students
They
to
just want
die of
attention, bro.
dehydration and starvation? This is like basic humanitarian aid we're asking for. Like, could people please have a glass of water?
Here's what protests look like without luxury beliefs. The protesters of the 60s had more skin in the game, yet almost always practiced nonviolence.
Almost. Right?
Sure, no movement has been perfect. But today's students oversimplify complex geopolitical.
You know what's messed up? Those are white police officers oppressing them. So it's always white people oppressing the rest all the time. Back then, they just happened to be the law. Now, they're the victims. But now the police don't do anything to them. They just push them around. If oh my God, I just can't. Goes to show.
Into narratives of good versus evil, while destroying property and harassing people.
It's not that
along the way.
simple, good versus evil.
So, how should they protest? Amplify the stories of everyone except yourself. Amplify the stories of victims. And if taking a stand means you don't get a degree or a job, don't protest the consequences.
Exactly.
Accept them. Instead, when Savior Theater is done for the day, campus protesters have the best luxury of all.
Yeah.
Someone else cleaning up the mess.
A quiet
Probably
and
me.
mostly empty UCLA campus except for cleanup crews after the pre-dawn crackdown.
The ignorance, bro. Let's take it a step further and educate ourselves even more. So let's educate ourselves even more and look at the both sides. We're going to look at both sides and see what the hell is going on over there. There's the channel 2 months ago. That's not extremely long. That's current. See what their opinions are over there. Let's listen to the actual victims and the people.
There's literally nothing that Israel won't do in the name of vengeance and in the name of continuing Zionism. For some people, the takeaway is as long as they're not literally putting people in ovens, as long as they're not doing exactly what the Nazis did, that somehow that's okay. It's actually not okay. Never again doesn't mean never again in the exact same way that the Nazis did it. If that's your takeaway from the Holocaust, you really need to look at yourself and do some soul searching. I'm Jewish. I lost members of my family during the Holocaust. And the truth is, Israel does not represent me. Israel does not make me safer. In fact, it puts me and all Jews in greater danger. Because as Israel commits these crimes against humanity and live streams them, and in some cases gleefully live streams them, we've seen soldiers doing this, Israel doing that and saying it's in the name of Jews, that will create anti-Semitism. The idea that Israel represents all Jews is in itself an anti-Semitic idea. The dual loyalty trope says that all Jews are a monolith and we're all loyal to Israel and we can't be trusted to be loyal to other governments, regardless of where we live. That is really what Israel is leaning into. And you have anti-Semites and then the government of Israel, AIPAC and the ADL, all making the same argument, which I think really shows you the dangers and the inherent anti-Semitism of Zionism. People like to claim that anti-Zionism is anti-Semitic. Well, it's actually not, given that you literally have more Christian Zionists in the world than you have Jewish Zionists. This particular Christian form of Zionism wants Jews to go back to Israel so we can provoke the end times, Armageddon. All Jews except a very lucky 400 who accept Christ as their Lord and Savior burn for all of eternity. So these are the allies. All these cancel culture warriors who talk about right-wingers being canceled are very silent, interestingly enough, when it comes to critics of Israel, who are probably the most canceled people of all. If you're a Palestinian critic of Israel, you're very, very, very canceled. If you're a Jewish critic of Israel, you're less canceled, but you're still canceled. You're just canceled as a self-loathing Jew as opposed to an anti-Semite, which is a significant difference. I mean, I was fired by a network for saying that Israel is an apartheid state. So my being Jewish didn't really protect me. And of course, there's a huge bias in the way that corporate media reports on Israel-Palestine. They're very clear when Russia does something. Russia bombs, Russia strikes, Russia kills. When it's Israel, it's often Palestinians killed in attack, Palestinians dead after bombing. We even know that networks and outlets instruct their writers and reporters not to use certain words like genocide.
Wow. So, okay. So this is a lot of stuff to take in. So I that goes to show how we don't know anything about over there. Zionism is not part of the Jewish, it's very messed up how divided they are amongst themselves in general. And very confusing, which goes to show we shouldn't even be giving our opinion about what's going on over there when it's so complicated for them to explain. Why the hell do we think we should be putting our opinions over there? This is... And I didn't even know they're posting stuff like that in social media where they're just bragging and showing off.
Not even to use the word Palestine. In fact, the reporting by the New York Times on the alleged mass rape used by Hamas was so bad that they had to cancel a podcast that they were going to do about it because there was so little to back it up. Now, on the other hand, you have countless stories and allegations of Israelis raping Palestinians. That got totally ignored. It's really fascinating that we hear time and time again about the 40 beheaded Israeli babies, even though there was no evidence of that. And we do have evidence of actually beheaded babies, children with their heads blown off. I mean, we saw a child literally shredded. Various representatives of the Israeli government are never asked about that. They're never asked to condemn Israel's violence. They're never asked to condemn Israel's terrorism.
Bro, I can't do it. I can't. Like, those are some strong... And bro, that is the worst thing a father or mother, like, seeing their child like that, bro. That's some strong stuff. War is ugly, man.
There was a doctor who was tortured to death. If you don't already feel disturbed by the images of Palestinians or the stories of Palestinians, the story of Hind Rajab, who was left in a car to die when she was begging for help, and Israeli soldiers shot up the car and shot up the ambulance trying to rescue this girl. If that doesn't haunt you, I really urge you to imagine this happening to a Jewish child during the Holocaust. I think that Jews should understand this, if anything, more than other people, because of our history of being targeted.
Bro, that is very strong. Like, especially the children, that's what affects. I think anybody who has a heart, anybody who has feelings, sees a child in danger, sees a child suffering, and they react, bro. I don't care who you are. If you don't have feelings to save a child's life, you're a monster, bro. Alright, let me leave it right there because this is gonna make me hell of emotional. If you wanna check it out, there it is. Like, bro, but that's a little small peek at their point of view, which is, now let's look at the other side. Well, there's the channel. You know it's gonna get real when there's a warning right up in the beginning, guys. It's important for us to not be censored. It's important for us to not be blinded, not by our feelings, not by our beliefs. It's important for us to be open and look to see the truth, even if it does mess us up. It's important for us to see the whole picture, and then we could maybe have an opinion on it.
Snapshots of horror as Hamas terrorists gunned down civilians in Israel. They didn't stand a chance. The Israeli government released this
You imagine driving
a
and
much longer collection of images. It's made of the carnage that unfolded here on the 7th of October. It needs the world to remember what triggered Israel's war with Hamas.
We don't parade bodies on TikTok and on our social medias like our adversaries.
Live.
We felt it was important to show the international press what happened here, to understand the tragedy.
Foreign journalists were invited to watch a 43-minute compilation of the bloodshed. It's not yet possible independently to verify all the content, but some of the images, like this attack on a kibbutz called Be'eri, have already been widely seen. Other footage will probably never be made public, as it's far too distressing.
Bro, they just go into people's houses like that, and they
and over 200 taken hostage.
Just straight up in your house, take you down while you're driving down the street in your own neighborhood.
Was of two terrified young boys and their father running from their home into a shelter, only for a militant to throw a grenade in after them. We see the father fall to the floor. The two boys emerge, bloodied and traumatized. They know their father's dead. They call for their mother. One even asks, "Why am I alive?" The fate of the boys is not clear. Officials also released what they say were documents found on the militants that allegedly reveal instructions they were given. Again, it's not been possible to independently verify the content. This one's described as an abduction manual. It says to gather hostages in several places. Anyone who might pose a threat is to be killed. Militants are also instructed to create chaos, use violence and terrorism, and kill as a last resort. A former top commander signaled Hamas had received outside help from Iran, though he didn't provide proof.
We have the evidence of Iranian involvement. I cannot elaborate too much, but you can understand what I mean.
Aaron Amar, a police officer in the Yoav unit, received the report, approached the scene, and activated his body camera.
That happens here in America. Actually, this is normal in the hood.
At the scene, he met the commander of the
Especially in
Southern
Puerto
Division,
Rico, bro.
Amir Cohen, who gave the order Paresh Plistim, the code name for the infiltration of terrorists, an order that the police have heard only in exercises.
Oh, fuck. Baby is yelling.
The cry they heard came from Romy Suissa, only 6 years old, who was protecting her toddler sister, 3-year-old Leah. A few blocks away, Eliana, the mother of Dolev, the girl's father, was unsettled. She was waiting for an update from her children that everything was okay.
I tried to call, and there was no answer. And then I wrote to them. I managed to send a WhatsApp message. Odia,
Damn.
you're not answering.
This is
Message
tough,
that
bro.
everything is
Like,
okay,
this is...
please. I also tried Rami, the eldest granddaughter. I tried to call her by video call.
At the sharp end, Aaron and the police officers next to him were trying to see where the cries were coming from. Then they came upon the vehicle where the little girls were hiding.
Man, that's so sad, bro.
Save us. And her questions to check if they're policemen, if they're good cops. Are you Israelis? She had to check. Because before that, she saw the other policeman shooting her father and then her mother.
Damn. Okay, I don't know what to do, bro. Hold up.
Good, what you did.
Stop. So, I just want to conclude this video talking and saying my thoughts on this. America has got problems. We got problems down here where it's ghetto. We got problems being able to pay our rent, being able to deal with the homeless and the drug epidemic and all that. We got our own problems. These privileged teenagers, these usually white Karens and white, well, how do you call the white male that's a Karen? They privileged and they want to pretend like they know about things. At the end of the day, no matter what side you're supporting, you're basically supporting one side killing the other, completely eradicating the other. There is no good guys in war. In war, there's just points of view. That's it. No one's a good guy. They're bad guys against bad guys. And everybody's out to kill the other group, which is messed up. It's messed up. And this is exactly the type of topic that won't get this channel monetized. So I encourage you to press that button down there and buy me a coffee if you so kindly want to support me. But bro, when we talk about privilege and luxury beliefs, yeah, these people just want attention. They don't want to care. They pretend like they care, but they don't. And then they oppress minorities by making laws and decisions that actually don't affect them, but affect us the most. It's just messed up. It's messed up. That's why I believe we should concentrate here in America first. Let's deal with our problems before we even pretend to know what's going on in the rest of the world. Because my country, Puerto Rico, has enough problems and nobody's helping us. Nobody cares. The fact that they're so loud and vocal about this type of stuff just goes to show that they just want to concentrate on the current, most trending event so they could get all the attention and they could be seen as the most benevolent and righteous, virtue signaling people out there because they want to be seen as so great and so mighty. But at the end of the day, they're just ignorant, stupid motherfuckers. To open your eyes and see how no matter who you support, you're just supporting death. And there is no good guys. It's even sadder. But yeah, we should just concentrate living our own life. Just mind our own business, especially if we don't know what the hell is going on. Then we have these people just making things worse. But that's just an opinion of one Hispanic dude in the internet. Yeah, I don't think anybody cares to listen, but we out here trying to do our best to educate not only ourselves, but share the education with all this dumb shit, bro. America's dumb. That's why the world weaponizes American empathy against them. Just is what it is. That's all I got for today, guys. I appreciate you guys for being here. Peace out.